I don't know how all these influencers are gonna think about this, but the TikTok ban is coming. And with all this talk about marketing and everything, it's worth mentioning the TikTok ban. Theo, you got some data on that, right? How's this going down?
It's going down in the DM. Yeah, how is it going down? The House. So if you don't know, a lot of folks may not know this, but we have a government, and I'm just a bill, and you have to go through both houses. The House, which is made of all the representatives, which is people that represent certain districts in the states, and then you have the Senate, which is only two senators per each state. In the
Did did
House, they
did you
found
learn that? Did you learn that back in Washington, DC on your trip?
I did. I had to remember all that, right? And they brought it back to my memory. You know, oh yeah, that's how you gotta go through appropriations bills. No, but I knew a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that because
yeah.
I was heavily
I'm messing
into
with you.
some politics stuff for a second. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so the House went through their committees and they voted up into the House. And this is interesting because this is like a bipartisan bill. This is one of the few things that both Republicans and Democrats agree on, which is super. It could probably get done because, as we all know, politics is not agreeable anymore. And so this is very interesting time right now. So anyway, they got through the committee process and it got voted on the House floor with all what 200 or so representatives, and it passed. So now it still has to go to the Senate. If it passes the Senate vote, when it gets to the Senate, it goes the whole process again. Has to go to committees, then finally get up into the Senate floor. And if it passes, then the House looks at it one more time to make sure there's no changes or anything like that. And then finally it goes up into the president to sign. So has a very real chance of passing. And it's very interesting. Unlike 2020, when Trump was talking about let's ban TikTok and all that, it's a lot quieter this time, Mr. Benja. And I think it's because the data is starting to show that these tools, maybe TikTok and Facebook, are not healthy for the younger generation. And they're thinking at ways to curtailing some of the influence that
Yeah,
these social media apps have on our young folks, especially one that's owned by the Chinese government, which is
yeah.
ByteDance, which is a subsidiary. It's its own company, but we all know Chinese Communist Party is a part of that.
Yeah, we've seen Chinese companies or even Chinese affiliated companies that were subsidized or pushed forward with Chinese money, Chinese governmental backing, have been co-opted, and we've seen this problem. I think Jack Ma he was talking about something going on with Alibaba, and suddenly the Chinese government stepped in and was like, "We're doing this," and
He
Jack Ma was like,
disappeared.
"We're doing this," and yeah, exactly, and he ended up not being in the public anymore. We don't know what that means, but we know what that means.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the CEO even came out and he's very disappointed. He keeps saying, "Hey, I'm Singaporean, I'm not Chinese, this doesn't affect us." It's like, guy, we know how these strings are being pulled, man. Don't try to goose us."
Yeah, so it's interesting too because TikTok, they're trying to help sway. Obviously, lobbyists is a big part of the government process, and they're trying to sway the lawmakers to not ban TikTok. And one of the things that TikTok did, which was scary too, they knew everyone's zip code who was on TikTok, right? So if you're in TikTok, they can understand where your zip code you live in. And that's important because they can tell who your congressperson was. So what they did
Mhm.
was they created a marketing campaign that popped up while you were watching TikTok that said, "Hey, did you know TikTok may be banned? If you don't like that, here's your congressperson and here's their number. Click here to call and complain about that." And
Yeah.
people complained. So when I went on my Capitol tour last week, the interns there, they represented Texas. My brother got us a tour from his congressman. Our congressman here in Florida, he came through, but we weren't going to go to the Friday one. So neither we wanted to go a little earlier in the week. But anyway, so the interns there were from Texas, and they were saying they were bombarded last week with 16-year-olds, 12-year-olds calling, saying, "Don't ban TikTok." And so
Yeah.
that's scary in a sense because they were trying to do something which is normal, juice the process and help their case. But I think they make their case way worse when they showed how influential TikTok can be in trying to sway our elections.
Mhm.
So that's when everybody, oh, y'all shouldn't have done that. You over you
It
habitual line stepper. You overstepped your line.
Yeah,
So
it's funny. Some people are saying they're doing there's a lot of people defending it without, I think, understanding what some of these companies can do, will do, and even if you don't know that they're doing it, are doing. So we talked about this last year, I believe, in a bit of depth about the TikTok ban when it first we first started talking about it. But yeah, it's you don't need if you have the zip code, that's one thing, but you don't need like all this personal data like spelled out to find out about you, to get all the data and information they need from you for whatever nefarious purposes. And it can go into very scary places, especially when you couple that with apps sharing information. So let's say you have CapCut on your phone. And so if you're using CapCut, that's the video editing software, and you're using TikTok, both of these apps can share data or basically like figure out ways to, oh, if somebody uploaded it to the server, they uploaded with the same email address or whatever, we'll just go get that data. And now instead of somebody who has one bit of data, they've got two bits of data, three bits of data. Let's say you installed the entire ByteDance suite of 4 or 5 apps or whatever. It starts to get really weird. And next thing you show up on the dark web. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very intrusive, and we talked about the Chinese government and their willingness to get a lot of hackers to get information. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely something that I think we're gonna see more of. One thing from a business standpoint, I always look at this: how many hours are spent on TikTok, Mr. Benja? So when you look at the numbers, they said in 2020, the average global average was 13 hours and 18 minutes per month. By 2022, this figure had increased by 76%, reaching 23 hours and 30 minutes. So the average person across the world spends 3% of their month on TikTok, or 5% of their total waking hours on TikTok. And so that's a lot of time. And so if TikTok is banned in some aspect or in certain countries, where's all that viewing has to go somewhere. And the rumor is obviously you're gonna have probably YouTube views go up,
Yeah.
Instagram views go up, and then maybe movies and TVs shows. So it's interesting to see what's gonna happen if TikTok does get banned. So my prediction is I think they may limit the use for folks younger than a certain age. Because I agree, younger kids do not need these to have a 12-year-old, 8-year-old. And some of their friends are on TikTok, and it's just no, that's just not good. And so I think they don't need that. And then number 2, so I think there will be a limit on who can access it. Also, so I don't think it'll be a total ban. And then also I think they're gonna find a way to divest ByteDance from TikTok in some
Yeah.
way here in the US at least.